Have you ever wondered how welfare plays a crucial role in shaping political landscapes? This question brings us to the fascinating intersection of politics and social welfare, a dynamic that has been at play for centuries. To illustrate this, let's travel back in time to ancient Rome, where the Senate used grain shortages as a lever to control the populace. Much like a chess game, this strategy was a subtle play of power, manipulation, and control, with the masses as pawns in the grand political scheme. Fast forward to the present, parallels can be drawn with modern welfare politics. Consider this. Politicians who promise to protect welfare benefits might have a stronghold on the votes of those who rely on these benefits. The fear of losing these benefits could be enough to sway their vote. In a sense, could we not view welfare benefits, like food stamps, as a form of political control, or even as a sort of bribe in exchange for votes? This brings us to an interesting concept: political promises as transactions. Think of it as a marketplace, where politicians are sellers and voters are buyers. The currency? Promises. These could be direct benefits like tax cuts or increased welfare benefits, targeted policies aimed at specific demographic groups, or even issue-based appeals focusing on high-profile societal concerns. And what about the reward for the voters? It could be a quid pro quo arrangement, where a specific benefit is promised in return for a vote, or it could be conditional promises, where the fulfillment of a promise is dependent on the politician receiving a strong mandate from voters. Once the election is over, the promised policies, if implemented, serve as the payoff for the voters. However, this transactional perspective implies that voters are primarily motivated by the expected benefits of policies, rather than ideological alignment or other non-material considerations. It also places a premium on accountability and trust, considering that politicians who fail to deliver on their promises may face repercussions in future elections. With this understanding, let's delve into the intriguing life of Marcus Aurelius Cleander and his tactics. Marcus Aurelius Cleander, a man who used the political landscape of Rome as his personal chessboard. A figure of immense influence, he rose from the humblest of beginnings to become one of the most powerful men in Rome. Born a slave in the Phrygian region of the Roman Empire, Cleander's intelligence, ambition, and ruthlessness propelled him to the apex of power. The key to Cleander's meteoric rise was his ability to manipulate the political structures of Rome. As the chamberlain and favorite of Emperor Commodus, he held a position of immense influence, which he used to sell seats in the Roman Senate. This practice, while certainly unethical and corrupt by modern standards, was a masterstroke in the context of ancient Rome. By selling these seats, Cleander was not only amassing personal wealth, but also filling the Senate with individuals who were indebted to him. This strategy gave Cleander an extraordinary amount of control and power. With a Senate filled with his supporters, he could effectively dictate the political agenda of Rome. He could push through his own initiatives, block those of his opponents, and shape the laws and policies of the empire to serve his interests. But Cleander's power was not absolute. His manipulation of the Senate and his blatant corruption eventually led to his downfall. The Roman people, tired of Cleander's tyranny and exploitation, revolted. In a violent uprising, Cleander was overthrown and killed, a stark reminder of the volatile nature of power and the dangers of political corruption. So, how does this relate to the modern political scene? Let's find out. History, after all, often has a way of repeating itself, and the lessons learned from figures like Cleander can provide valuable insights into the machinations of contemporary politics. From the Senate of Rome to the halls of modern legislatures, the quest for power remains a central theme, and understanding how it can be won, wielded, and lost is crucial for any political observer. The political arena can often resemble a marketplace, where votes are the currency and promises are the goods. Now let's break down this transactional nature of voting into a few key components. First up, we have direct benefits. This is where politicians promise specific policies or programs that offer direct benefits to certain groups of voters. It could be tax cuts or increased welfare benefits, healthcare reforms, or job creation initiatives. The idea here is that voters who stand to benefit directly from these policies are more likely to cast their votes for the politician making these promises. Next, we have targeted policies. These are campaign promises tailored to the interests of specific demographic groups, sectors, or regions. For instance, a politician might promise to support the agricultural sector to win over rural voters, or pledge to increase funding for urban infrastructure to attract city dwellers. And then there are issue-based appeals. Even when there's no clear ideological alignment, politicians may focus on high-profile issues that resonate with the electorate. These could be about public safety, education, or healthcare. By promising to address these issues, politicians aim to attract votes based on their perceived competence or commitment to solve these problems. So, votes are cast and promises are made. But how are these promises rewarded? Well, there are a few mechanisms at play. One of the most direct forms is a quid pro quo arrangement, where voters are promised a specific benefit in exchange for their vote. While explicit exchanges like these are generally frowned upon and even illegal, more subtle forms of this dynamic can occur. There are also conditional promises, where certain programs or initiatives are only feasible if the politician receives a strong mandate from voters. And finally, the reward for voters comes after the election, with the implementation of the promised policies. The effectiveness and speed of this implementation can then influence future voting decisions, creating a feedback loop where promises are evaluated based on their fulfillment. But how are these promises rewarded? Let's explore. In politics, promises are often rewarded, subtly shaping the dynamics of political power. Let's delve into the mechanisms of reward in politics, a fascinating and complex landscape of quid pro quos, conditional promises, and post-election fulfillments. These rewards, whether explicit or implied, can significantly influence voting behavior, painting a picture of politics that is as transactional as it is ideological. Quid pro quo, a Latin phrase meaning this for that, is a concept that resonates deeply in the political realm. It's the most direct form of transaction in politics, where voters are promised a specific benefit in exchange for their vote. While explicit quid pro quo arrangements are generally illegal and ethically troublesome, more subtle forms of this dynamic can and do occur. The promise of benefits, however veiled, can sway voting behavior, often in favor of the promise maker. Then there are conditional promises, another intriguing aspect of political rewards. Some political promises may be implicitly or explicitly conditional on electoral support. For instance, a politician might suggest that certain programs or initiatives will only be feasible if they secure a strong mandate from voters. These promises are contingent upon the politician's success at the polls, making them a powerful tool for rallying voter support. Finally, let's consider the fulfillment of promises post-election. The reward for voters, in this transactional perspective, comes after the election, with the implementation of the promised policies. The effectiveness and speed of policy implementation can then influence voters' future electoral decisions. This creates a feedback loop where promises are evaluated based on their fulfillment, adding another layer of complexity to the political landscape. These mechanisms of reward, each with its own nuances and implications, play a crucial role in shaping the political landscape. They influence not only the strategies politicians employ in their campaigns, but also the way voters perceive and engage with politics. So what does this mean for the voters and the politicians? In the grand scheme of politics, these transactions between politicians and voters carry significant implications. Let's first look at voter expectations. This transactional perspective suggests that voters are driven more by the tangible benefits they stand to gain from policies, rather than ideological alignment or other non-material considerations. It's a bit like shopping for the best deal. Voters are shopping for the policies that will directly benefit them the most. But what does this mean for accountability and trust? Well, it places these two aspects at the heart of the political stage. If a politician promises a policy and fails to deliver, voters may feel cheated, as if their end of the bargain wasn't upheld. This could lead to a backlash in future elections. On the other hand, Politicians who live up to their promises solidify trust with their electorate, creating a positive feedback loop that strengthens their position. Now let's bring this all back to Marcus Aurelius Cleander in ancient Rome. Cleander's tactics of selling Senate seats can be viewed as a more overt and extreme version of these political transactions. He offered a clear benefit, power and influence, in exchange for support, effectively manipulating the political landscape to his advantage. In our modern world, these transactions might not be as explicit, but the principle remains the same. Politicians offer policies and initiatives as products to win over voters, who in turn purchase these products with their votes. It's a political marketplace where the currency is trust, and the products are promises. So whether it's welfare benefits acting as a form of control, or Senate seats being sold to the highest bidder, these all fall under the broad umbrella of political transactions. It's a fascinating perspective that offers a new way of understanding the complex dynamics of politics. As we've seen, the politics of ancient Rome may not be as far removed from our modern world as we think.